Hello guys, welcome back to our lesson video 7 of programming with C++. In this video, we are going to understand what functions are and why we use them, and how we write functions, declaration and definitions, how to pass argument to functions and use default parameters, how to return values from functions, how to understand functions overload, and how to work with pointers functions, and how to create your own user-defined functions. So let's get started. By the way, my name is Stephen Asante. So when we say functions, what are functions? A function is like a recipe book. Just like the recipe has a name, ingredients, and step-by-step instructions to make a dish. A function has a name, parameters, and a code that performs specific tasks. So in C++, functions are a block of code designed to perform specific tasks or tasks. They are fundamental building blocks that help us organize our codes, make it reusable, and keep our program manageable. Imagine you are building a house. Instead of mixing cement, laying bricks, and installing windows all in one big or huge process, you break it down into smaller tasks. Functions work the same way. They break down complex programs into smaller manageable pieces. So we have different types of functions. We have the user-defined function types. So the user-defined function types are the types of functions that you, the programmer, create your own specific problems. It's like your custom tools. For example, if you need a calculator, if you need to calculate the average of three figures or three numbers repeated in your program, you would create a user-defined function to do this. And we also have the standard library functions. These are the pre-built functions that come with C++. It's like having a toolbox that's already filled with useful tools. Examples include std cout, this one, std cout for output, std sqrt, which is for square root calculations, and std max for finding maximum values. And we also have other types like the virtual functions. So the virtual functions, we will not talk about that much in this video. In the in other videos, we talk about it. We talk much about it. So they are used in object-oriented programming for something called polymorphism. Yes, that's the virtual functions. And the inline functions. And these functions are where the compiler tries to replace the function call with actual function code to make your program run faster. It's like copying and pasting the function code wherever it is called. They also have other types, the benefits of functions. So modularity. Function helps us to break down complex programs into smaller manageable units. It's like organizing your closets. Instead of throwing everything in one pile, you organize clothes by type, season, colors, everything. And also another benefit of function is reusability. So write once, use many times. If you create a function to calculate tax, you can use it wherever you need tax calculations in your program or even in other programs. Also have abstractions. So with the abstractions, functions hide the complicated details and let you focus on what the function does, not how it does it. When you use a calculator, you do not need to know how the circuit work. You just need to know the presence, like adds, subtractions, how to use it. Also improve readability. Function makes your code easier to understand and maintain. Instead of having one massive block of code, you have a clearly named function that describes what each part does. Let's go into the function declaration. So a function declaration is like announcing to your program, hey, I'm going to create a function with this type, with this name. It takes this input and returns this type of output. It is called function prototype. Think of it as a preview or a promise. You are telling a compiler what to expect before you actually write the function. And this is the syntax for writing function. You need your return type, your function name, your parameter 1 and parameter 2. It contains as much as possible parameters you want. And this is example of sample code for writing a function. So the return type, which is your int, and the function name is find sum. Int first num, which is the parameter 1, int second num, which is the parameter 2. Then you terminate it. So you come into the main function and call it. This is outside the main function. This is outside the main function. So we come back into the main function and call it into the main function. That's how function declaration works. And a function definition is a function declaration in which the body of the function is presented. So with the return type, go back here and explain something here. So with the return type is what kind of value will this function give? That's for the return type. And a function name, this name, function name. What do we call this function? And the parameter, what input does it need? And the function body, what does it actually do? That's the function body. What does it actually do? Come down here. What does this function actually do? This is the function body. What does it actually do? It's finding the sum of 1 and 2. That's the function body. What does the function actually do? So let's get into function definition. So these are some keywords in function definition. So the return type, as I said earlier, tells us what kind of data the function will give us back. We use void if the function doesn't return anything, like a function that just prints something to the screen. You use void for that. And the function name, this is how you will call the function. That's how you call the function. Choosing meaningful names like calculate average instead of function 1, so that you can call it easily in your main program. And the parameters, these are the inputs. The inputs your function needs. It's like the ingredients in the recipe. That's the parameters. And the function body, this is where the actual work happens, the step-by-step instructions. And the return statement, this sends value back to whoever called the function. Let's talk about parameters and arguments. People usually get confused between parameters and arguments. Now, let me clarify this. So with parameters, the variables in the function definition. Parameters are the variables in the function definition. They are like empty boxes waiting to be filled in our function definition. You get me? Parameters are the variables in the function. They are like empty boxes waiting to be filled in our function definition. Whilst and this is the syntax for the parameters. You need your return type, your name, your argument one, argument two, name, goes on. And with the arguments are the actual values you pass when calling the function. They are what fills those empty boxes. And this is the syntax for writing an argument. This the syntax for writing argument, the function name, argument one, argument two. Example is the add number 1, 2, 3. This is the example syntax for writing argument. Let's take parameters as the placeholders and arguments as the actual values that go into those placeholders. There are different types of arguments. You have the value argument. You pass the actual value. And the reference argument, you also pass reference to a variable. And the pointer argument, you pass the memory addresses through the pointer argument. And array argument, you pass the entire array through the array argument. Also have some default argument. Sometimes you want to make a function flexible. So default argument lets you provide the default values for the parameters. So users don't always have to provide every argument. It's like ordering at a restaurant, where the chef has a default seasoning, but you can specify something differently that you prefer or you want. That's the default argument, and this is the syntax. Return type, function name, type 1 name, type 2 name equal to value. Yeah. And this is the example, a sample code. Example, a sample code. So the function with default argument, the return type, which is the int, get the function name, integer x, integer y equal to 20, return x plus y. So this code is going to add x plus 1 plus y for the return type. Let's see, I get. So function calling. To use a function, you need to call it by its name, followed by the parentheses and any required argument. It's like calling someone's name to get their attention. That's what we call function calling. So the function calling is syntax for the function calling. Function name, argument 1, argument 2. So the call is by the name in the main function. We also have a function overload. So function overloading is a powerful feature that lets us create multiple functions with the same name by different parameters. It's like having multiple tools with the same name by different purposes. So the question is, why would you want this? Sometimes you want to perform the same basic operations like adding numbers, but with different types of amounts different types or amounts of data. That's why we use function overload. So this is a sample code example for function overload. Int your identifier or function name, add int a, int b, return a plus b. So int add int a, int b, int c, return a plus b plus c. That's the function overload. That's what we call the function overload. This is another example of the function overload. Int add a, int b, add a plus b, and you come down here, double add double a, double b, return a plus b. That's the function overload. Now different types of the function overload. So the reason why I didn't code in this video is that I want you to use the knowledge we have acquired in our previous videos to try your hands on this. And coding takes time to master it. I have to practice.